So I pulled the front end back off, the front bumper cover, just to make this easier to work on. But me being the dummy I am, the bag of bolts and screws and everything that I had for putting the front bumper on and the brackets, it had a set of these 4 bolts and a set of 4 bolts with bigger heads on them. So they're the same size but different thread pitch, and idiot me, I tried to put the wrong bolt in and thinking that it was the right one, and then I did go to put the right one in and it broke off in here. So I'm trying to drill it out so that I can use easy out to get it out, and then I broke a drill bit off in there. So that's my goal. I'll probably spend half the night trying to figure this out, trying to get this out of here. I ended up putting the headlight harness back in, and I think I got it sitting pretty decent here, and then I realized I needed power to this harness. And this went to the positive side of the solenoid before, when it had the old push rod in it. So now I'm debating if I want to run it back across with all this wiring over to the passenger side there, or if I just want to run it back with the power cable back to a distribution bar behind the driver's seat here that comes right off the battery. So I'll think about that overnight. I'm kind of thinking I probably should run it back over to that positive side of the car there. I got all the wiring kind of tucked up in place here. I got my ground straps bolted back up again. Oh, and this guy where I ended up busting off the bolt and then the drill bit, I ended up just knocking that jobber out of there and putting in a nutsert. I figure it's going to be back behind this piece here, so you'll never see it anyway. And it's the same thread pitch as that. So I should be good to go with that. So I'm thinking right now I might toss the bumper back on here. Think a little bit, maybe think overnight how I want to do that, because I'd have to undo a bunch of wiring here and pull that through, get that wire loop back in there and run back across over to here. But I'm kind of thinking that's what I'm going to do. That's where I'm at right now. Then I did put that GT wing on here just to see how that would fit up on here, but I'm kind of thinking I might just slap that on there right now and then just weld up these other holes later and just keep my nice Gorilla tape on here for now. That Modular Motorsports Racing, the MMR. So the oil filter relocation kit, I ended up completely removing the block adapter off of there. And I wish I would have got I'll maybe post a picture up of it, but there's 3 O-rings on the back side of there, and then there's a pad on the engine block that it all bolts up to. Well, there's the outlet and the return are directly above each other, but then there's a 3rd O-ring that's by the lower one on that block adapter. And I think it hangs off the little pad that's on the engine where that thing bolts up to, because the O-ring was bulged out of there. So I'm wondering if it's getting oil past those O-rings and out past that block adapter. And I think it's leaking out and dripping out past there. So I ended up redoing things, and I thought I tried to do a little bit of a different torque sequence, and only put like 20 foot-pounds of torque on those Allen screws that go into the engine block there. So hopefully that's not too much. And we'll give it a shot again tomorrow. I'll probably fire this guy up and see how it does. I have this power cable that's coming from the headlight harness, and I wanted to run it through with my wires over to the positive side, but I have a couple, like a trigger wire and everything, and fan wires that go back and kind of tie in everything too. So I was wondering if there was an easier way. I didn't want to have to run it back into the cab. I wanted to run it with all these other power wires, and yeah, excuse the mess, but I'm feeling pretty good with it, kind of how it is. But I had the idea, I'm like, I cut up an old coat hanger. I'm gonna use it like fish tape and try to get it at least run in through it part way, and get it run across and then finish it up through the other side and get it wired in that way. So I'll let you know how it goes. All right, I'm pretty happy I figured this out. So like I showed, I just used an old wire coat hanger and kind of bent the end up and used it as a fish tape and got it through all my wire loom here. I might have to find a better way to like secure that, but pretty happy with how I did that. Now I'm just gonna unwrap this a little bit so I have a little bit of room to get that other end back on here. Get that other end back on here, solder it on. Then I'll wrap that back up again and get it all mounted in place here. Take this tape off, all that good jazz. So yeah, pretty happy that worked out. I just fished this wire coat hanger in. So it was popping out about partway through here. Then I popped it back in over here and ran it out the side. And I think it's looking pretty good. I'll have to redo my wire loom. I kind of messed it up using that wire and I was kind of poking and stretching and kind of undid things here trying to get it through. So I'll undo my tape, undo a couple bolts, get the end soldered onto the wire here, get that up in place, and then I think the car will be ready to fire up again. And all my, well, I don't have the headlight switch in, but hopefully everything all works now. I'm trying to get wires up out of the way as much as possible here for running the car. And yeah, that's a mess of wires now. So I'll do some tucking and cleaning and all that good stuff too. Now I'll go buy a package of zip ties too. For my headlight, the power supply for the headlight harness over to here, that used to go to the positive side of the solenoid. So I think I'm good there. Redid that block, the MMR oil filter relocation block. Got some wiring kind of tucked up out of the way here. It's not the prettiest, but it'll do. Hook the battery back up again. So next thing I'm gonna do is fire this thing up and maybe take it for a little spin, get some parts. I need to get some clips for the rear bumper. So I might just run to the local Napa that's about a mile away. So, but maybe I'll just take this car and see how it does. But I did fire the car up and let it run. When I did drive it last, I had some squealing in the front end. And I think what I have it narrowed down to is that old used AC compressor. So I'm wondering if that thing's making a bunch of racket and squealing. So hopefully it's not the belt drive, anything like that. But I got that AC compressor used from someone or another. So might have to go on the hunt for a different one and replace that, see if the squeal goes away. But on that, I was just really hoping it wasn't the power steering pump, because that looks pretty nice and fresh in there. I think I got that used somewhere along with the AC compressor, but that's kind of oily, scroungy looking. So, and who knows, maybe it's not the best idea to just have it as basically acting as an idler wheel. But I didn't think there was a whole lot of harm in it, but maybe there is. But I think the next thing I'm going to do is pop these fenders back off and work on my sway bar end links. Get the rear end sway bar links tightened down. They're in there. They're just loose, and the little jam nuts for the adjustment aren't tightened down on them. All right, I took the car up for another drive. Before I was thinking that it was the power steering pump that was squealing, but now I'm really confused because it'll start squealing after the engine's been running for a little while, and then it gets really bad. But it doesn't seem to be RPM dependent. It kind of comes and goes. It gets really loud sometimes, and I'm just kind of at a loss. Right here, I'm gonna fire it up, see if it's doing it still. But I don't think it's like a throwout bearing or anything. That was really bad that time. That's the worst I've heard. I might start popping belts off. Oh, once the engine cools down a little bit and see if it still does it. Like pop off a shoot. It's hard to get the one off to the alternator in the AC pump because it's behind the one that drives the power steering and the water pump. The joys of cars.